Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayode. This video is the part 2 and it is the continuation of our core Ansible concept to manage infrastructure in our cloud environment. Before we move on, let's quickly look at the benefit of core concept of Ansible. Ansible concept actually provide ease of use. It is agentless architecture and it is also human readable YAML syntax. Like it is very quick, to check for errors. You can also, do a dry run, in your Ansible's playbook before you even execute the task, right? And then it allows user to automate complex IT tasks and workflow, in your environment. And it is also known to be very reusable. Like the playbooks are very reusable, and then it has a very high efficiency of modularity. Like there are thousands of modules in Ansible concept that you can use, to perform any task as much as you want. I mean, any complex task that you might have been, worried to accomplish that. So Ansible can actually make this happen, and it is very, flexible automation, across multiple hosts, like what we did in part 1 of the video, where we have, multiple hosts, in our environment, and we could be able to communicate with it, and also being able to access those files, and also, either deploy or call, any of our hosts, from Ansible host to machine, right? And then it is very declarative in nature. It's very, user can define, the desired state of a system in a playbook. You can actually define how you want things to be automated, right? So, and it also has a very strong support, and Ansible has a lot of information in the Ansible doc, which we'll also covered in this core concept of Ansible. Let's quickly look at the prerequisite for this practical that we want to engage in. We need to have an account in AWS. We're actually trying to use AWS as our cloud platform, to provision this practical. So you need to have AWS account with permission to create EC2 instances. And then all command that is used in this video will be, put in my public repo in this link. I'll drop the link below as well. Then you need to create a kind of different servers in your cloud environment. So we'll be able to use Ansible host, to manage those servers, right? And then you will need the SSH client, probably, anyone you are comfortable with, or PuTTY, or maybe Mobile STEM, or any other SSH client that you might be very much comfortable with. All right, so let's quickly get on to business. The first thing we need to do is to go to our instance and maybe check the instances that we have running. So in our first video, we created Ansible server. We created Ansible server. Okay, that is the Ansible that we created. And let's create a new machine. Let's just create a new machine. Maybe we call that Tally. Let's call it Tally server. Let's call it Tally server. And then let us use let's use Red Hat. Let's use Red Hat, and let's probably, maybe we'll leave it as T2 micro. We just try to make sure that we don't make use of the resources that we need more space. So I will use my key pair that I already have. Then I will choose one of my existing security group. I will keep this machine under my Kubernetes security group. And then, yeah, that's it. And I will launch my EC2 instance. Okay, so let's look at the EC2. I think I have a Tally server before, so we can let's just keep this like this so that we don't get it too, coming up. Let me try to, okay, now. So we have the Tally server, we have the Tally server, and then the Tally server is up and running already. So I will just keep the Ansible, I'll start the Ansible server. All right, so we have our Tally server that we just created, and then we're trying to launch our Ansible server as well. So let's try to do few let's uh, try to write one or two things, and before we move forward, so we'll be able to refresh our memory. Let's say this is the training 2. Okay, so let's make this training 2. So we'll call it let's call it the part 2. So no, we call it the part 2 of our core concept of Ansible. So yeah. So and then, like I said, that Ansible has a very great support. So most of the Ansible, I mean, any Ansible modules you're looking for is you can get it in Ansible doc, and it has a very great community support. So that can be found in this link as well. So which I will also drop in the link below. So and then in our previous video, let's quickly recap. In our previous video, we look at how to install Ansible and how we can configure Ansible control server, which is our local host. So that's the first thing that we did in our part 1, in our part 1 video. So let's just do a recap. In our part 1 video, we tried to we install and configure Ansible control server, which is our local host, right? So that's the first thing that we did. And then we also discussed, after we did that, we created EC2 instances, of course. And then we also discussed briefly on Ansible concepts, such as the Ansible command. And then we use Ansible command to, to ping almost all our hosts in the part 1 of the video. So let me just put that. So we discussed briefly on Ansible concept, and then we talk about Ansible concepts, such as the Ansible command. So we talk about the Ansible command, and then we also talk about the Ansible config file. So we try to grant privileges, to Ansible config file in our Ansible. So because the Ansible config file was under the root, so we also try to make sure that we change, and then we change the privileges to Ansible user that we created. So in our Ansible. And then we also talk about the Ansible modules. We said that Ansible modules are in thousands, and we list the few Ansible modules like ping, shell, command, the apt module, and then we also talk about the yum modules. We also talk about the copy module, and I think we also talk about the service module as well in our previous video. So in our previous video, we talk about, we said Ansible are in thousands, and we list, modules like ping, command, apt module, yum module. Apt module is used for the Debian, and then the, Ubuntu, Linux, and then the yum modules is, we work for the Red Hat operating system, and then we also talk about the copy module. So I don't really think we use the copy module, in our last video. So, and then we also said that it is very important to know that the default module in Ansible are command and setup. So the default module in Ansible, it is very important to know that the default module in Ansible are the command and setup. So these are the default module in Ansible before we talk about any other module. So it is very important to know that the command module and setup modules are default, in Ansible. And then we talk about playbook. We talk about playbook in our last video, and we said that we talk about playbook, and we said that playbook is said to be the configuration script written in YAML file, right? Which contain the plays and tags that will be executed in our host or infrastructure, right? So that is what playbook means, right, for us. So let me just put that here. We say it contains a playbook, and it's also a configuration script written in YAML, right? So that is one of the concepts that we talk about. And then we also talk about the Ansible roles. We talk about the Ansible roles. let me put that down. And then we said that Ansible role is a self-contained unit of automation that groups related tasks, tasks, variables, or files, etc., into a standardized file structure. So when we get to the playbook, when we start to create playbook, you will see the way Ansible roles, plays. You will see the roles that it plays, in Ansible playbook. This is a very self-contained unit of automation. So it's like it's like a singular, unit of automation that is grouped, in relation to tasks or variables or files, in a standardized file structure. So that is what Ansible actually, Ansible roles does in part of the Ansible concept. Like I said, these things I'm listing, the concept I'm listing are the core concept of Ansible, which is very important for us to know as a DevOps engineer, and it is very useful for us. So it is something that is required for us, to know. And then another another concept that we touch is Ansible Galaxy, and we say Ansible Galaxy provides prepackaged unit of work like rows and collections that can be used to provision or deploy and perform various tasks, right? So this is like having a kind of a written script that you can be able to to modify, to perform some of the tasks that you are required to do, so you don't need to start writing all over again. So that's where the Ansible Galaxy comes in. So it actually provide prepackaged, provides prepackaged unit of works like rows and collection, that can be used to provision, or deploy or perform any various tasks in your infrastructure, in your environment. So this is another a good part of the Ansible concept that is very important for us to, to utilize during our, in our environment. So, and then we also talk about the inventory, and we said that the inventory are in statistic and in dynamics, right? So inventory, of course, we touched inventory and we created an inventory, which says, is a list of hosts or maybe device that Ansible, manage for automation and configuration management tasks. You remember, for example, the other time we created inventory in our host directory, right? In our host, which is in Ansible, directory. So we created our list of machines, right? With the private IP address, the username, and our key, right? So we'll be able to use that to create our inventory. So don't forget that Ansible inventory is a list of hosts or server or devices that Ansible manage, for automation and configuration management tasks, right? So don't forget that is actually the work of inventory. So we then move forward. We created Ansible file in our last video, and then we created Ansible file. Let me look for the Ansible file that we created in our last video. Oh, it's not here, so let me get that. In our last video, we created Ansible uh, inventory. We created an inventory like this. So we created inventory like this, which is, if you remember, we have the cube master, we have the worker node 1, we have the worker node 2, we have the Ansible itself, in our previous video, which is this web 3, and I think we also have web 3, right, in our last video. So, and then we said that we use the Ansible default file called host, So the host is where we kept, is the default, where the file reside, right? So, and then we said it is found in etc Ansible host. Always remember, engineer, that this is where we kept our inventory file. Even in our first video, this is the default, the default host file, right? So let me say the default Ansible default. So I'll say Ansible default, and then it is ECT. Don't forget inside here. So, and then in our last video, we veer into this particular file, and then we edit it and paste our, our file in it. So let us just move ahead with what we have done last week and had the new the host machine that we just created, which is the Tally web server, right? So, and then we, in our last video, we also we create we create our key. Yes, remember in our last video we create our SSH private key. So we created our key last week, and then we also make sure that we protect our key. So we also protect our key, last week, and then we also make sure that we, in our last video, we will also make sure that we keep the key in temp directory. So this is where we kept our key. So our key was kept in temp directory, and then we name it key1.pen, if you remember in our first video. So our first video is very important, that can help us to understand this second video and how we want to progress. Our aim today is to make sure that we progress, on the Ansible command, to be able to probably, and then to utilize it, and to also make sure that we can use it to maybe modify, or we can also use it to export file. So that's the aim of this second video before we move to Ansible playbook. So we created our private key, and then we kept it in this directory, and then we also use the Ansible host file, to ping. We use it to ping other host machine, other hosts in our cloud environment. So this is another thing that we did in our previous video, in our part 1 of the video. So we did that. We ping other hosts, including in our cloud environment, including our local host. So we also ping our local host in our last video, and then we also change the key checking, key checking. Remember, we changed our key checking, and then we turn it to false. We turn our key checking to false. So this allows us to, to eliminate the yes or no, the yes or no question during our automation. So we do that. So today we will look at other Ansible command modules, right? So let's use the copy mode module. So we will use that to see how copy modules can help us to export file, and and then modify the file from Ansible, and then we'll use it to also integrate. Maybe we can also install something like Apache server. Then we'll be able to see how copy modules can help in relation to exporting and file management. So today, let's see what we're going to touch today. So today, let us see what we can do with. Today we're going to continue. We'll continue with Ansible Ansible command module, right? So, and then we will try to use the copy module. So we'll try to use the copy module, and then we'll also try to use Ansible command, to install Apache. Let's install Apache server, and let's see how we can modify, and then how we can modify and export, right? And then we can, we modify the file, and then we export, right? So that's what we want to do today. So let me, and also I think there's an important thing that we also cover. We talk about the user management. In Ansible. We talk about the user management, and we also talk about the file management. We talk about the file management. We also talk about, I think, package management. package management, and then we also talk about the service management. So now we're going to see how we'll be able to use all of this. So I think user management, mostly we're going to see how that will play in our playbook. We're going to see how that will be used in our playbook. In today's video, we'll be able to see how file management can work in our command, and then maybe we can use a copy, and then we will use this to also like install using an Ansible, and then we'll also use this, probably to start or restart, right? Our service, start or restart service. So we use all of these in today's video. So let's try to make sure that we modify this file and then we save it in the host. So we created a new server called Tally server, right? So this Tally server will need, remember, when you are creating your inventory file, you will use your private IP, your host machine private IP, not the public IP in this regard, and then we call it, I think, Tally server, and then call it Tally server, and then the IP address is this, because it is Red Hat, so we need to use EC2 minus user, because that is the default username. Remember what I'm trying to do here. If you go through our first video, you'll be able to understand what I'm doing here. So this is the private IP address of this host, and then Ansible underscore user, this is the user because we use Red Hat, right? For the operating system that are Ubuntu, we will use the default login, which is Ubuntu. And if you have a username that you are using to log in, you also put that there. Then the next thing we want to do is to make sure that we use the private key file. And our private key file, in our last video, we kept it in the temp directory, which is where the key.pem file resides. So let us see what we will do today. So this is the file that we'll be using in our host. Let's copy it. Let's copy this file. We'll copy it, and then let's jump into our machine. Oh no, I'll copy that later then, because I need to jump into this Ansible machine. So let's jump into our Ansible, and then I need to connect to this Ansible machine. So we can use PuTTY or Mobile Steam. So let me use Mobile Steam, and then I'll connect to my I'll SSH into my Ansible machine, my Ansible server, using the the IP, the public IP. And then I think my Ansible server is Ubuntu, so I'm going to log in with Ubuntu. The default login name for Ubuntu is Ubuntu. Then I'll use my private key, which is, so for you, you're going to use your own private key. So I'm going to connect to my server. So we're connected to a server. Let me just make sure that I zoom in so we'll be able to see it properly. Okay, all right, so I'm going to clear my screen, and then we said the host is in let's cut EC2, etc Ansible hosts, right? So this is where we have our host. So let's veer into it. Let me clear my screen. So we veer into, no, let me just use the same command, and then let's just change it and say vi. So I'll do vi EC2 Ansible host. So EC2 Ansible host. So now I will go into my file, my inventory file. I'll copy this inventory file. So let me copy the inventory file. So, and then let me just replace it with this. So I'll just replace it with this. Okay, before I do that, I'll press I, so I'll be able to insert. So, and then I will have to delete all of this. Let me replace it. Oh no. So I'm going to clear everything. So let me just clear let me clear from here. I think there's the cube master. This is a new one I created. So I'm going to delete this. Trying to do a fast way of doing it. So I'm going to clear this away and our new file will be, saved. All right. So I'm going to escape and then I will quit and, escape. So, what's this? Press enter, to come. So EC2 cannot open the file. Okay, so I'm going to do this. You know why we're having this issue? I'm supposed to log in into the Ansible, right? Before I'll be able to do anything because we have Ansible. I'm using Ubuntu user. So I'm going to log in into this Ansible user. In our previous video, we have Ansible user that we created. So we created Ansible user. So you need to be an Ansible user before you'll be able to manage this host. So that's why I'm having that error, right? So in case you have the similar error, please, you need to, when you first log in into your Ubuntu operating system, make sure that you change user to your Ansible user. And don't forget, if you watch the first video, you realize that we created Ansible user and we grant it a sudo access, right? So privilege, sorry, we grant it a sudo privilege. So I'm going to go into the Ansible now and I'll run my command again. So I'm going to vi into the host. So, okay, I think there's no point to continue wasting time here. So I'll just rewrite this. The host file is inside this directory, Ansible host. Remember the S, host. So I'll press I and then I will clear all of this. So I'll just clear all of this. Okay, so I'm going to paste the new file that we have. Remember the tally. I think we have the tally server. That is not copied here. So we have the old one there. So I'm going to copy this again and I will go back to our mobile STEAM and I'm going to clear all of these. So I'll paste. So we have the tally server here. So we can escape and then we quit. So now we can be able to get into that. So now let us see how we can, in our previous video, we actually used the Ansible file to ping. So let's see how many machines that we have on here. We have the tally server on. So let us ping the tally server just to make sure that our Ansible inventory file is working. So to do that, we'll use Ansible and then we'll use, let's just ping the tally server. Let's use that. So, and then we just say, let's use the ping module. So we will just use ping. So the module, the tally Ansible server, the host. So the tally, the host machine, and then the module. So let's just go into that. So it says tally not found. Did I press? Oh, I made a mistake there. I think I didn't type the Ansible well. Ansible. So press. Okay, so we get an error. So that's why I just want us to make sure that we test by pinging before we proceed. Unreachable, fail to connect to the host, warning, permanent added to the list. Let's see, identity, temp, no such file in the directory, permission denied, public key. Okay, so saying that no such file. So host, no such file So this is an error. So okay, so it's saying that no such file. Remember in our, let's look at our file again. We have this file called key1.pem, and then we have this tally server, easy to use, all that is correct. So it's complaining about this key1, key.pem. So this file is found in temp. So let us troubleshoot. So this is good. We can use this opportunity to just troubleshoot what is happening. So the key file that is complaining is a fail to connect to host. So now it's complaining about this temp, no such identity. So let's search the identity that it's talking about. So we do ls and then we say tmp. Let's just do this. Okay, if you look at in our first video, the key file is kept in the temp directory, and now we can find our key. And this is the key Ansible will use, to gain access into the host that we're trying to call, right? We want to know if this host machine is alive. That's the purpose of our pinging. Okay, so in that case, let us go to, I'll go to my key, and then I'll open my key. So for those who did not know how to do that, that's the way we're going to work it out. So if you open your key, you copy your key. This is the key that you have, to log into your account. I mean, the key that you generated in your, in your account, in your AWS account. So now I am going to create a key. So I'm going to say vi and then create the key. Remember, we said the key is key1.pem. So the file will be key1.pem. So we press I, so we'll be able to insert, and then I will escape, and then I will quit. All right, so now let us try to ping again. Let's try to use the ping Ansible tally server module ping. All right, so I think we got an error again. Unreachable. Okay, failed to connect to the host via SSH. Warning, unprotected private key. All right, so now this is what we need to remember, that our key need to be protected. Even though we have already keep our key there, we need to make sure that we protect our key. And to protect the key, it is show mode 400, to protect the key, and then we want to protect the key in temp, and the key the file we're trying to protect is this. All right, so the show mode this, so we protect the key. So this is how you're gonna protect your key, because that key was open, so we need to protect the key before it can be able to be accessible by others. So that we prevent that vulnerability. So the next thing we need to do, let's try to ping again. Let's try to ping Ansible server. All right, so it's successful now. So it's successful. We can talk to our Ansible server. So now let's try to use, let me clear my screen. So we said we want to try to, let's go back to our training file. And then today we were trying to see how we can use other modules like copy module, and then we want to install Apache, and then we want to modify, right? So we want to modify the file, and then we want to export it into another machine. So we'll use this machine as our Apache server. So let's install Apache using into this machine. So to install Apache, we can use the Ansible command to install Apache, which is going to be Ansible, the host name. Let's bring out the command that we need to use. So it has to go this way: host name, Ansible host name, the module we want to use, and the module to install Apache is let's use system D. Let's use system D, and our argument will be it will be the name equals to httpd, and then the state will be it's going to be latest. State going to be latest, since we want to install, it should be latest. So this is how it should look like. So now we need to modify it and then specify the host where we want to install it, which is Tally server. Remember, if we want Ansible to deploy or to install Apache in all of the hosts, what we need to do is to come here and say all. So that means the Apache will be installed on all the server. You get what I'm trying to say? All the server in our inventory. So that's how that will work. So now our aim is to install Apache in Tally server that we've created, and it's also in our inventory, file in the host file, Ansible host file, right? So let's copy this command and then we'll go back to our machine, our Ansible host machine, and then let us implement that. So Ansible Tally server system D module and then Apache. So we click yes. Oh, so it's failed. Ansible value reloaded, restart, stop, got latest. Uh, okay, all right. So this is it. I think there's something we need to put become because we need the sudo privilege. You cannot install into the root access without the access. Let's try this. Okay. Uh, all right. So we might need to use, apart from that, we might need, I think we missed, we missed something there. We didn't specify the modules that we want to use to install. So, I think that service is what we use here. This is service. So this is service. So we want to use, the install package, the package management. So we want, is it that we use the yum install or the pack or the apt install? Remember, we have the app part of the command, we have the app, and then we also talk about the yum. So now, because I want to install, I need to make use of one of these, module. So it's going to be Ansible is going to be Ansible, and then the host name is going to be Ansible host name, and then the module I want to use, because we use Red Hat, so we'll be using Yum. We'll be using Yum module, and then the argument will still be the same. So let's say the argument will be name, and then the name will be HTTPD, and then the state the state is going to be latest. It's going to be latest. So this is what we miss. So we're going to rewrite this. This is exactly how it should be, and then we will rewrite that to what we want to do. So we are going to modify this to our own um, unique host machine. So Ansible Tally server modules will be your module, and then the argument will be HTTPD and status latest. So let's copy this. Let me copy this, and then let's go back to let's clear our screen, and then let me make this much more visible. Okay, so now we we are using the yum module, remember, because our Tally server is running on Red Hat, right? So I'll click enter and let's see. Oh, this command great. You see, this command has not be cannot run under the root user, right? So this command has to be run under the root user. So now, remember I said that because we are trying to run a file in the root directory, so we need to have the root user. So you have to put -b. But by the time we get into when we get into our playbook, when we start creating our playbook and we're using the playbook to automate our tasks and all of that, we can be able to define, the root access by putting the become, in our role, right? So, but for command, we can actually, use that here, and that would go. Let's see if we're going to encounter any error. So now we're saying Ansible Tally server the module we are using is Yum. Okay, cool. So that has been installed. So Apache is being installed. So now we can now use the service module now. You remember the last time we tried to use the service module. So this is where we will use the service module, right? So we can use the service module, to start Apache. So to start Apache will be started. So service module system D. So we change this one also to started, right? Because now we want to start Apache. So we are using service module. I hope you get what I'm trying to do now. Here we're using the Yum module, which is for the package we are installing, and here we are using the service management, right? So I'm going to copy this and I will take it to let me clear my screen for us to see clearly, and then I will paste this. So let's start our Apache. Oh, remember we did not put beacon, so we will need to put that. I think that's taking longer time, so I will just change that. Then I will rewrite it and say Ansible tally. Oh, there's no point. Let me just go and copy. Let me just go copy this, and then tally server, and then the module we want to use. Let's use system D and our argument, and then it's HTTPD, and our state will be started. So we're gonna put -B. So -B will allow us to. So I'm going to start the Apache again. Let's see. All right. So I think that's why we used to say that commands are prone to errors. So even though the whole thing that we type at the beginning looks alike, if you look at what I type now, I type Ansible server and the module is systemd, which is similar to this. And I say the argument, and then I put the name HTTPD state started. Still the same, but that's why Ansible playbook are one of the most important concepts in Ansible, because you can easily run your dry run. You can do your syntax check, to check for errors before you even, automate your tasks, but for commands are prone to error. So these are one of the things, that make command module not to be, as sufficient as playbook. But of course, you can easily utilize this, on your CLI environment, if you want to perform a job. And then, it is necessary that we know the fundamental, of core Ansible concept, since we're going through the core concept. So it is very important to understand this. So before we move to the playbook itself, which is, great. Okay, so now we've installed Apache into our web server. So let us see our Tally web server. Let's see our Tally web server. Let's try to open and see our Tally web server. All right, so our Tally web server is up and running, which is our Apache, and then we can be able to access it here. So now the next thing we want to do now, also remember that in my security group, right, that means in my Kubernetes security group that I put this Tally server, I will have opened let me write that down. For us to install Apache server and also being able to link it, we will be able to make sure that we open the port 80. Port 80 is very important, to open for Apache, right? So in my Ansible, in my Kubernetes security group, uh, if we check, the security group will have port 80 open. Where is it? You can see port 80 is open. Port 80 is open. So you must make sure that port 80 is open on your own too for you to be able to access, your Apache server. So now let's create a file. Let's create a file in our Ansible server. Let's create a file, and then we can then use the file, to export to our Tally server, which is our Apache, right? So let's create a file. Let's just create a very simple file that we can print. So let's say we want to write something into and direct it and create a file, right? Let's just direct it into an index, or we can use home. No, let's just index or home, anyone, index.html. So let's try to write something inside that. And let's say, let me just do a simple HTML file. Let's use the header, and then I'll use h1, and then I'll close it, and let's just write welcome to Coyote T01 channel. So, and I will say thank you for watching to this stage. All right. So now we're going to create this file. We're going to write this and send it into index.html in our Ansible server, right? So let us connect back into our Ansible server. Let's clear. So now we're using the file management now. At this point, we're using the file management. Where's mine? So we can call this, we're under file management now. So under file management, right? So now we want to make sure that we create this file and then redirect it to HTML. So just like we are creating index and then we're keeping this file in it. So we create this. So let us do ls. So we have the HTML file which we have redirected, and let's cut it. Cut index.html. So we have this file. So I think we have file there before too. So that's great. So let us just should we create a new one? Let's just create a new one, and then let me see, HTML. So let's do ls. So we don't have any file there. So let's create a new file. No, let me just clear my screen. So let us paste this and say, welcome to Coyote T01 channel. Thank you for watching till this stage. So we create this, let's say ls, and then let's cut it in case we have any file there, index.html, right? So it says, welcome to Coyote T01 channel. Thank you for watching till this stage, right? So now we want to let's export this file, because this file now is in our Ansible host machine, right? So we want to export this file into our Apache, because if you check our Apache server has nothing inside it, right? So now let us see how we will use the copy module. So now we need to make sure that we copy the file, and then we send it, we export it into the Apache, right? So what we need to do is to make use of the Ansible command, that is Ansible host name, and then the module we want to use, which is copy module. We want to use the copy module, and then our argument will be to send the file to the source. And where is our source? Our source file is index.html, right? So, and then our destination, where we want the file to go, is it's always in the var. I think is in the var var www, and then it will go in the HTML. Okay, so now this, and then let's remember to put the become, so -b. So now we will rewrite this file, right? So we send in this file. Let me rewrite the file. So if you want to send all of these into all your machine, then all we need to do is to just change the host to all, and then this will go into all the files in our inventory, right? But our target is to make sure that we send it into our Apache server, which we already know. We have made this tally server our Apache server, and then the module we want to use, the copy module, and then the argument is that we're taking the file from the source, which is the index.html, and then the destination will be var, var www, directory, and then HTML. So, which is our, it's like the home page, right? Remember the index, we hit the home page, right? Or the home page.html. So now, if I take that and I go to our SSH client, and then we paste the file. Did I copy? Okay. So Ansible tally, which is Ansible host server, then the copy modules and our argument, right? And then so what we want to do now is to press enter. Let's see. All right. So now with the help of this copy module, we've been able to copy. If you see the root, remember the root, that's why we put the B. So we'll be able to copy the source, right? Which is, from here. And then if you look up, you will see that the destination is here, right? So this is the directory of the destination, and this is the file that we send into the destination of this IP address, right? So now this Ansible has been able to export the file with the help of the copy module into this private IP, right? So, and the private IP of 122, if we check here, is going to be our tally server. You can see the private IP is 122. So it targets, the host machine that we give, which is the IP address that ends with 122, right? So now, with that being done, let us refresh our Apache server. Do you see that our Apache server automatically gets what we did? You can see that welcome to Coyote T01 channel. Thank you for watching till this stage, right? So this is how the copy module can help us. This is how we can utilize copy modules, in our CLI, using our Ansible command, which is part of the Ansible core concept, right? So now let's see how we can modify this file. Let's modify this file and let's see how we can be able to export our modification into our Apache server. So if we come here into our training file, and let's say that something happened, or let's say there is a modification, right, in our file, and this file, and we are asked to send, or we are asked to make sure that the file is being updated in our Apache server. Let's say now we want to do an update, or an upgrade. Let's just call it an upgrade or an update, right? Want to happen, and then initially we have this, and then now they said we should say, oh, we need to add more content, So let's say we say, welcome to Coyote channel. Thank you for watching to this stage. Okay, let's say we want to do something like don't go nowhere. We still have more to cover, right? Let's say we still have more to cover, and then let's also say we still have more to cover in Ansible Core Concepts, right? So concept, right? So let's say we have this modification that has been added, right? An upgrade, and we want to make use of our copy module, to execute this. Let me clear my screen. So we are in our Ansible server, right? And then we have this, we have this two file that has been modified, so let's say ls, and we have the file there, and then we can just cut index.html, right? So this is the file we have. Welcome to Coyote channel. Welcome to Coyote T01 channel. Thank you for watching to this stage. Don't go nowhere. We still have more to cover in Ansible Core Concept, right? So now we have the Apache server here, which has not been updated. So now we want to use our Ansible command, copy module, to be able to modify and then export this file. So we can still use the same command that we used initially. Let's say, where is the Ansible? So we'll use the same command, Ansible tally server, which is our Apache. Module is copy, and then the argument is, the file from source, to the destination of HTML directory, right? So if you enter into this, now the changes has been applied into the same IP address, right? So there are changes, right? The changes has been done, and then it has taken effect. So if we go back into our Apache server and then we refresh our Apache server, do you see? So this is how efficient and sophisticated and flexible Ansible can automate. And if we do this, you can see, welcome to Coyote channel. Thank you for watching to this stage. Don't go nowhere. We still have more to cover in Ansible concept. Right. Let's say we have maybe 50 servers that we wanted to manage. So all we just need to do is to make sure that push this file into, the command we use. We just, in our command, we just put all instead of this tally server. We put all and everything go there. So this is how we can use command modules, in Ansible. And, but it is not practically, good, to use Ansible command as a major, way of handling Ansible, because the command are prone to error, just like, the error that we've seen when we're trying to, to perform a little task, right? By deploying and restarting, or starting Apache. After we install Apache, we're trying to, restart Apache, and then it's generating error. So these are the things that can happen when we're using, command modules. So now our third video, we'll be looking at playbook. Our part, the part 3 video, we will be looking at playbook. So engineers, this is very important. We need to make sure that we watch this video. So the part 3 video, we will try as much as possible to see how we can create, we'll be able to create playbook. And remember, we'll be using YAML. We'll be using YAML, YAML scripting, which is very simple. We'll be using YAML scripting for this configuration file, for the config file, right? So, and then we'll also use the syntax, the syntax check, for errors. So we can run our syntax also. We'll be able to run syntax check, for errors. This is for us to detect error at the early stage, right? At the early stage of our, of our playbook before we run our major tasks. We can also run the dry run, which is also going to allow us to see our configuration file, if it's fine or not, right? So, and then we will also be looking at the user creation. So we'll be using playbook to create users, user creation, etc., right? We'll also see how we can use the secret vault, how we can keep, our file, our secret file, like password, right? And many other, values that we can derive from playbook. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you will be able to, keep up with me to watch the part 3 of this core concept of Ansible, to be able to use some of the values in our production environment, or maybe our project, as we may wish to. Thank you for watching once again, and have a wonderful day.